Ladies and gentlemen, the warmest of welcomes to Vairano in the province of Pavia, northern Italy. We come to the first of the 8 legs for the 2018 FEI Nations Cup series that kicks off here in Italy. Some superb competitions on the route to the finals that this year again are in Buccolo, the military Buccolo Enschede Horse Trials in October. And Germany, the defending champions. They don't start as a team here in Vairano for the Nations Cup competition, but they've won an impressive 4 editions of the series that had its inception back in 2012. So Germany are so strong traditionally. This afternoon we welcome our judges. At C, the President, Monsieur Eric Libby from France. At M, Great Britain's Jane Tolley. And at E, the dentist. He's just retired actually, but it's Dr. Ernst Topp from Germany sitting ringside at E. And our trailblazer of the Vairano Nations Cup, we welcome Yasmin Gambarasio for Switzerland. This is Tempo de Lorme who kicks us off this afternoon. I'm delighted to welcome alongside me a man who's ridden around the likes of the Land Rover Burghley Horse Trials, a Swedish international event rider. He rode in the Lamulan Europeans. It is Christopher Forsberg alongside me. Chris, we're delighted that the beast from the east has been slayed. Blue skies, perfect weather conditions, but quite breezy out there. Welcome to Vairano.
Thank you very much, Ed. Yeah, it's a fantastic weather here that welcomes us to the first leg of the Nations Cup, the FEI Nations Cup. And we're looking really forward for this track, I must say. We walked it yesterday and it looks super. Mark Phillips has done a perfect job again setting up some questions and some big fences to get us started into this year that has really, especially in England, totally blown away.
Yeah, it's been an absolute nightmare. Cancellation upon cancellation. Belton Park run recently up in Lincolnshire, but as you say, it's been a whitewash with the weather, sadly. But they're doing this FEI 3-star test of 2015, the B version. That's the walk pirouette, which is not an easy move on a horse which is fit to run around the cross country on Saturday and under windy conditions. It's tricky enough.
Yeah, especially the walk on these fit horses is really difficult. You get to have them relaxed and really supple with you. I think Jasmine is doing a great job so far, especially here in the walk. You can see a nice lengthening of the outline. And so far it's been no real mistakes. You can have a little bit more expression and impulsion, but I mean, she is the trailblazer and probably the cross country will be the more thing for her for this horse.
As you say, 4 teams starting the FEI Nations Cup leg in Vairano. Switzerland, Sweden, your nation, France and Italy are the teams. 27 years of age now, Yasmin. She trains a lot with the quite legendary feature or German trainer, formerly now Great Britain's Chris Bartle. And Chris will have given her oodles of experience, himself a former badminton champion, and yeah, there's no better person in the sport.
No, a person with the experience of Chris can always bring a lot of down to a rider, and it's just about also keeping it simple, what Chris always does. And really this test is so far very nice. She had a good walk and now goes into the canter, very stable and so, and she comes now up to the first real decision maker, the first changes.
Yeah, this is the moment. Apart from the walk, you see the tension and a bit of a bunny hop at the first one. Tempo de Lorme, he's self-Francais bred, 11 years of age. And Yasmin, a load of experience as a youth rider, rode in 6 youth European championships, completed every one, which is pretty impressive. And then rode at the Worlds in Normandy and 2 senior Europeans as well. I talked to her at breakfast, and very much her aim with this horse and her other one is the Worlds in Tryon, but just coming a little bit unstuck in this canter.
Yeah, we see just as it loses a little bit of balance there coming into the counter canter, quickly regaining it of course, and now a much nicer change, more supple and more with her. But of course you can see that the horses are ready to go to cross country here, and she's keeping a little bit the lid on it.
Yeah, this is a feature this morning in a 2-star. The horses are bright, they're fit to run for their lives, as you say, and yeah, it's a blue sky, and they're like, yeah, great to be here. Not necessarily the way they're going to concentrate best in the dressage.
No, and especially with the winter we have had very little competitions outside and very little time to prepare for these competitions. And I think that all of the horses are looking a little bit fresh now at the stage of this season. What I do think is that a lot of riders will get it through to the Worlds, and of course they all want to do a lot now at the moment and get going.
Yes, make hay while the sun shines certainly is the adage. And that is Yasmin Gambriasso home. The 27-year-old from Würzburg in Switzerland completes. So yes, moments of course of tension, but the Swiss Nations Cup campaign kicks off in Vairano. The next combination to come is the elegant figure of Anna Fresgård. This is Box Cutie to kick off the Swedish team. Your team this week in Vairano, Chris. This lady made a superb debut. Her first Europeans were last year in Stregom. Rode this horse individually for Sweden. And that was 33rd place, was very good. But this season's kicked off even better. They're clearly in a love affair with Stregom because they won the CIC3 start out in Poland just a couple of weekends ago. One of the Swedish you feel very much in contention for a World Equestrian Games place. Anna Fresgård to kick off the Swedes. Box Cutie is away.
Yeah, Anna's definitely have a nice round this season, a nice start of it. She comes, as you say, just after Stregom victory. And this is quite an impressive mare in the dressage. And as we saw already in the intro to the halt, she had a little bit of an unnervous moment there, which she stepped one time back. Anna is, although, a really experienced rider, and she will keep the lid on this horse and really make it an expression horse.
Her partner, William Nielsen Fry, is here supporting Anna, the former Dolphin trainer. He also competes internationally, and together they run the Lovsund training stables in southern Sweden. 26 horses in work there. They're very busy, but she sits very elegantly in the saddle.
Yeah, she has really started off here with a lot of expression and a lot of nice movements. Of course, it is a big mare. It's a nice mover. You have a really nice outline, and of course, Anna sits perfectly on the horse and works it all the way through in the test.
You get a feeling that this mare is very much in front of her. It's all very uphill, light, and she's, sat in the saddle nice and deep. And it's all like the toothpaste and the tube squeezed up in front of her and out.
Yes, indeed, indeed. And you saw she had a little bit of a nervous moment going into the first hold, but it was nothing that was going to change Anna's riding, and she just kept on going. And we're seeing now really a lot of expression, what we a little bit maybe missed on Jasmin's horse. Now we see the little bit more expression and a little bit more, even a little bit more suppleness in the movement, and just that wow factor that you really want to see early in the dressage here for the judges too.
And Swedish horse sport, fair to say, is really booming because last year it was the only nation to win team medals in all disciplines. Eventing was the silver, the dressage was perfect, and of course the silver for the show jumpers in Gothenburg. So it's a great country to be part of, Chris, for this booming Swedish horse sport.
Yeah, we are very proud at the moment for what we are doing. We have had a lot of restructure into the federation and so on. It really shows to start to pay off now. Of course, we have brilliant show jumpers. The dressage riders is good, and we are now coming also with the eventing team. We have a really strong team for the WEG in Tryon, and we'll see what happens. But I think that Fredrik has a big plan for us there.
Yes, Fredrik Bergendorf, the team chef, is here in Vairano overseeing his Swedish steeds. and this is looking very smooth. It's an elegant picture. This Nations Cup series this year, Houghton Hall comes next in Norfolk, middle of May. Then back to Strzegom in Poland. Marcin Konarski's competition, leg 3. Then it trips out to the USA to the Plains is leg number 4, early July. The World Equestrian Games facility, Le Pas aux Haras, is leg number 5. Then it's across the Irish Channel. That's Thomas Duggan's Mill Street, leg number 6 at the latter stage of August. Penultimate stage is in Waregem, not too far away, Tom Rickevaart's base in Belgium. And the finals then will come to the great military Boekelo Enschede, Frans van Mechelen's crown in the autumn, for the final leg in October. It's an impressive lineup. And that was nailed as a flying change. Beauty.
Yeah, both of the flying changes really nice. All the canter work very, very supple and very nice, very uphill and very much on the hind legs. But we can see also she's a little bit feisty, the mare, but she's really doing a great job here, Anna. Really, really developed this part of her dressage test, and she's doing test after test. That's just quality now at the moment.
Yeah, Sweden are off to a flying start here in Vairano. That was immaculate. A few little blips, but the overall composure and impression was out of the highest order. And we wait for the mark for Anna Fresgaard. Fredrik Bergendorf will be delighted with that, as I'm sure you are. That was a really, really good start for Sweden to the 2018 FEI Nations Cup.
E sta uscendo dal rettangolo di gara Anna Fresgaard col suo Boss White che ha terminato la sua prova. Lascia il passo quindi a Sherazade de Louvry con Raphaël Cochet dalla Francia. From France, Raphaël Cochet with Sherazade de Louvry. Il board number 376.
The first score we can give you now is in for Yasmin Gambriasia, our trailblazer, for Switzerland with Tempo de l'Orme. The percentages at C57.88, at M60 exactly, at E59.23, and that is 41.4, the opening score for Yasmin Gambriasia completing. The third we welcome, and this the open-up for the very strong French team. They are the Olympic champions from Rio de Janeiro, the French. And this is Raphaël Cochet, 32 years of age. He is based at the Écurie de la Louvière, which is just outside Rambouillet. And with his girlfriend, Eleonora Musa, a fellow event rider. They run a stable there with horses and riders based for training for eventing. This horse was here last year, really caught my eye. He's super cross-country, Chris. And yeah, the French are very polished horsemen.
Yeah, and as we see here, this is the first line of team riders, so we're probably looking at some of the best cross-country horses that we have here. It's always that when you have a team, you want to get in, you want to have a clean sheet at the first rider to give the other riders just a little bit more of a breather and just give them a little bit space to just explore then the cross-country and even giving maybe even for an individual top spot then for the last riders.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. It's a real privilege to be your trailblazer for your nation. You go out on the cross country with a sense of pride, a sense that if you go well, the team is likely to follow suit. And this is an elegant grey. Self-Francais mare, she's now 12, side by Mr. Blue, out of a dam by Abdullah. And the minute I see a Frenchman on a grey, I immediately hark back to Nicolas Touzan's great Galant de Sauvager, one of the great greys for France.
Yeah, really lovely extended trot there coming down towards the judges. And now for the, what I think is the most difficult part for the eventing horses is now the walk, where you really have to keep the tension under the lid and you have to really keep them on your side. Don't work them too hard, just let them be there. They are prepared to do the cross country and they really see the cross country fences here in this beautiful location, and it's the racetrack around you, so you will have a lot of horses that just are a little bit on the edge. But I think the Frenchman does it a really good job here. And now he lengthens the outline.
Yeah, this horse went very well. It was 18th at Buccolo in the autumn of last year, which is a super result. Double clear around the Enschede 3-star. He was also 7th in Tattersalls last year, would be one of the bigger 3-stars on the circuit. And in fact, it was 2 years ago that he caught my eye. He was 4th in this very class here in Vairano. You can just see him bubbling with a little bit of energy in the walk. But Raphael's doing a super job just keeping him as composed as possible. But these pirouettes, Chris, on the back of the walk, which is already difficult, is a nightmare for an event rider. It's really demanding.
Yeah, you really need to have the horses supple and with you, and you have to have the differences between the little bit tension in the trot and the canter, and just let them breathe out at the moment when you go into the walk, and just try to be there for them.
But she's a lovely, elegant mare, isn't she? Pricks her ears, gorgeous eye. Kind of horse as a rider you would think would be great to sit on.
Yeah, she's a very correct horse, very nice. She could have a little bit more expression in the movement, and so a little bit more forward striving. What he's doing very well is super correct. It's everything spot on. You would like to have maybe a little bit more space in the canter now and a little bit more coming forward, but he's doing everything he can just to be very correct. He shows the collections and the forward going, and it's a very nice test, and very much with the head rhythm, very much out of the plan, and maybe just keeping a little bit the pressure down and just making it a nice test and a good start for the Frenchies.
So Raphael Cochet has got a superb relationship with this man, no question. It is their 7th season together. They started back in Saint-Dion, was their debut in August of 2012, home in France. They've only had 4 blips throughout those 7 years across country, which is impressive, really good. As you'll see come Saturday, they will tackle Mark Phillips' course for sure. You've been out on the track, Chris, just coming into the commentary box. What's your overall feeling about the course?
I think it's a very nice course. You have a lot of galloping in the beginning of the course. You can really stretch out in the first 2-3 minutes. Then you come into some questions when you come back into the main arena where we are sitting now, and there are some questions there where you really have to think and where you really have to act on, but it's fairly built. It's very nicely built, I must say, and Mark has done a super job with small tricky questions, and you have to save time a little bit here and there where you know you can save the time, because you will lose a lot of time in the main arena here where we are sitting, where we have the commentating, and it's just about having a plan from the beginning and just see that you work that way through in the whole course.
So, Raphael Cochet completing 3 of the 4 the first rider rotations have completed.
Percentuale 59-62, punti negativi 40 e 40.
Into sight comes the trailblazer for the home nation, Italy. We welcome Rebecca Chiappero. Sets off with her own Quilando Z. 33 years of age this year. Rebecca just had her birthday about a month ago. 13th of March was the date. She's a local lass. She was born up to the north of Vairano in Milano, the capital of northern Italy. And she started riding at 5 years of age, as her mother, Giovanna, was a riding instructor. Had a very good spell. She was at the famous Welton stud in Gloucestershire. Sam Barr, sadly now deceased, but what a legend Sam was of British breeding and the highest level of eventing. Had a super time at the Welton stud. Met Dot Willis, Ginny Leng's, Ginny Elliott's dressage trainer, the famous Dot Willis, and Nick Burton. They were very formative in her early progression. And this is the nice Zangaseda bred gelding, 16 years of age this time. It's Quilando Z. Quite a nice energy, nice feeling of bounce at the early start of the test.
Yeah, it got what we call a little bit of a bounce in the step, and you really see it's got a nice outline, it's got a nice bounce in the step, and it's really energy in the whole trot. I must say that she started off really good, nailed the first hold, and she's now going to come in to the medium trot. They just keep the balance the way all the way through. And that's what the judges want to see, that you go from point to point and really shows off the whole register of the horse. And so far a very good start to this test.
This partnership formed back in 2012. And as you would expect from a Zangaseda offspring, it's a very good show jumper. They've had a lot of clear rounds through over 20 international starts together. Last outing was in Protoni, just the north of Rome. Late March, was 5th in the 2-star there, which is a very good early season tune-up. Little moment there in the walk.
Yeah, I think the horse just anticipated there that the canter was already going to come. And that's the thing what you have to be really careful about as a rider, to really let your horse not knowing the whole test, so that you really cannot surprise them, and they are not surprised that something doesn't happen. And we saw that it was just anticipating the canter was now coming.
Yeah, that's certainly something I've heard from eventers, that they will practice individual movements, but in isolation. If you combine the movements, the horse then anticipates, but you need to practice them equally. So better isolate them, practice them, but don't combine them, so the horse doesn't learn to anticipate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't want the horse to just run a little bit before you. And if they do that, then you really, they run themselves into a little bit of a problem, and you want to be a little bit proactive against it and really just ride at the moment and not having to sit and wait and just that the horse anticipates what's going to come. You need to ride the whole test from start to beginning with a horse that is supple and with you.
And this is elegant canter work, very balanced in the frame. It's a nice round shape. The counter-canter loop of the serpentine looked pretty solid. And very good in the contact here, very consistent. No chomping of the bit or, okay, flying change a little bit above the vertical, but overall, it's good canter work.
Yeah, just a little bit of a bounce there in the second change too. Otherwise the canter work is really with expression, really forward going. She's really doing a nice job here, I must say, Rebecca. She's having a horse that is, I think, a little bit on the edge. She's a little bit on it, and I think that she's done a really nice job so far. And of course, it's probably a really good cross-country horse, as you said, at a nice last hold.
Yes, as you say, Rebecca Chiappero does a super job in just containing the Zangaseda Sun Quilando, and she really gave a picture overall of composure, despite, as Chris said, a little bit of tension underneath the saddle. It was a very clever disguise job from the Italian, and we wait her score with a lot of interest. Well, the early results are now through, and I can tell you that Yasmin Gambarasio, our trailblazer, scored 40.4. Anna Fresco, that elegant test for Sweden with box QT, as judges percentages of 64, 64 and 68%. 34.4 for Anna Fresco is a good start for Sweden, but Raphael Cochet on that very elegant grey Sherazade de Louvière, the combination that were fourth here 2 years ago in the very class we are watching. They have come out in front, 32.4, with percentages up in the high 60s, 67%, 68, 67, 32.4, to lead by 2 penalties after the first 3 here in leg 1 of the Nations Cup for the 2018 series. The next we welcome is the individual for Austria. The first rider rotation is completed, and we move on now to a batch of individuals. 7 to come that aren't part of a team here. 4 in each team. There's 1 discard score possible. We welcome 36-year-old Andreas Riedle, it is for Austria. A famous equestrian family because his father, Harold Riedle, rode in the World Games in Aachen back in 2006. I had the privilege of commentating live in Aachen. That was some occasion. To call home Zara Phillips as world champion was very special. And Andreas credits Lucinda Green. It's been a brilliant part of his training. Matthias Baumann, the super vet from Germany, and the Austrian rider Harold Siegel have been his real mentors on his eventing journey. And this afternoon, he rides the Irish sport horse, 13 years of age, by a very good stallion, Kiltaley Spring. It is prime Riedle. Early start of the dressage. Andreas rode twice for Austria at championship level. The Young Rider Europeans in 2002. Was 35th at home in Austria, and he also rode in '99 at Vitel in France. That was the juniors, and he was 23rd there. That was with Ghost Lodge Boy. Looks like the kind of combination that are just going to sort of survive the dressage, Chris, without sort of dazzling. That's just one of those horses.
Yeah, we can see it's got a little bit of problems with the connection with the horse, and yeah, of course he's working the best way he can. Of course not all horses are made to do dressage for the eventers. It is a necessity that we have, and probably this one is a really nice cross-country and show jumper, so it's all just about minimizing the damage and just making a good test as possible here.
Yeah, the horse I evented, Current Choice, back in the 90s, I tell you, he was no dressage machine, but cross-country was his forte. He couldn't move at all. My standard comment in any extension was running, no difference shown. I was sure he was extending. The judges didn't agree, sadly, but yeah, he was a cross-country tool, so that's why I had him.
Although he's showing a really relaxed and really supple walk here, that is really lengthening of it.
If you are just joining us at home, the warmest of welcomes to Vairano. We're under blue, cloudless skies in northern Italy. It's a very pretty picture. And as we said earlier, the beasts from the east have certainly been slayed by the Italians. And their sunglasses, shorts, shirt sleeves and smiles on those that are here in Vairano. Great to be here. Our superb host, Giovanna Mazzocchi Bordoni, our organiser, once again has put on a super competition. You couldn't say this horse is doing much wrong. It's just not the sort of typical dressage outline, but he's trying.
Yeah, Harald is doing a good job, just trying to make it as good as possible. The canter work is a lot better than the trot work, and we saw a nice flying change.
So, Primary Deal, this is his first ever 3-star. And I must say, he is, as we suspected, a cross-country machine. He hasn't had any cross-country faults since his debut, and that wasn't long ago. That was only 2016 in Stregon, in October as well. So that's quite a quick run-through to come to 3-star from your debut in October 2016. Andreas Riedle completing with Primary Deal. Yeah, he sort of looks a little bit disenchanted, but okay, his cross-country machine, his debut 3-star. It's not about dressage for them, it's about tackling Captain Mark Phillips's test on Saturday with aplomb and hopefully bagging their first 3-star cross-country. And if you can get your first clear around a 3-star, that's something you never forget.
No, and especially if the cross-country is good and it's a good jumper, then the dressage is always a thing that you can train and you can always get better in. It's a thing that the cross-country and the jumping has to work for us, and if the dressage then can be doable and can get better, then you have to just try it.
And it's certainly a big year for everybody, Chris. The World Equestrian Games every 4 years is starting to loom now, middle of September. You've got your horse Hippo Sapporo with a good chance for Sweden. What are your sort of hopes for the 2018 season?
Yeah, of course, there's always the hope. The hope of going to World Equestrian Games is always there, and you would always like to try to do the best of it. Me, myself, I feel very relaxed about it. I know that if he performs good, and I hope he will, then he has a fair chance of going there. If he doesn't perform well enough in the first competitions here in Wiesbaden and in Arville, then there's also no point of going. Then I want to go there and I want to do a great result. I want to make a good result as best as I can. But if it's not working out in this first competition of the year, then there's no point in going, and then you don't have to hope for it. But I feel we have trained good enough with the Swedish team trainer this winter. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to having a blast here on Saturday, especially in the cross country, and of course tomorrow in the dressage too.
The next to come forward, we welcome in the Spanish legendary name of Albert Hermoso Faras getting underway. And this is the Anglo-Arabian Quilate. Young gelding, just 9 years of age, but side by a very good stallion, Quattarda Plap. Nice, powerfully built grey, this one for Albert. He rode in the Olympics in Rio de Janeiro 2 years ago. And an impressive 5 Europeans to his credit. Fontainebleau, Le Moulin, Malmö, Blair Castle in 2015, and the last Europeans in Poland. Great view of the diagonal. Three dressage judges poised around the arena. Eric Lieby, the president, the tall Frenchman sitting up at C. Jane Tolley's done so much over many, many years at top level eventing. And the dentist from Germany, Dr. Ernst Topp. The dentists from Germany have been good. Of course, Henrik Romeike, the Olympic champion of 08, also of the the teeth trade.
Yeah, definitely. It must be something in the work that they do there that gives him a lot of time for the eventing sport. But as we said, with Heinrich Romeike and Dr. Ernst Stopp, both experienced riders and also very, very successful at high level.
And an interesting story with Albert Hermoso Faras, because his grandfather was the village blacksmith where he grew up in Lleida in Spain, and he helped Grandad with the mules and the horses, and his reward from the horse owners was to start riding the horses actually from his granddad's forge back to the owners. And one of the local villagers saw young Albert on a horse or a mule and thought, this guy can ride, and started to bring him into the sport. That was his story of the origins, which is always really interesting to know the behind the scenes reason.
Yeah, so far Alberto is doing a really nice job. She comes a little bit behind him in the trot work and could have a little bit more expression in the trot. But it's a very correct horse, and as you see now in the walk, it's a very nice and soft walk, lengthening of the outline and lengthening of the step. And then you have to collect them here and just keep them a little bit in front of your legs.
So Albert Hermoso Faras going pretty steadily through his dressage. Had a spell as well in the UK and in France where he didn't charge the event stables money for his work, he just wanted food and housing, and that's where he learned his trade as a sort of working pupil. I did a couple of times as well with the Vigas Mars down in Devon, and I had a little spell with William Fox Pitt as well, trying to learn from the best. But it's an elegant outline, it's very sort of rounded over the top of the neck, and the back looks soft.
Yeah, and this is also quite an inexperienced horse. It's probably one of the first 3 stars it does. It has actually done one time in Barroca de Alva in the spring this year, and they did a nice wrestle, finishing in 6th position. And I think it's a horse that Alberto thinks a lot about in the future. Of course, the Spain also gearing up for the VEG, in Tryon, and they also need their horses, and they need to have them fit and have them ready to go.
Albert started with this horse back in 2015. That was their opening run, and it was a super start. They won their very first competition in Seville. Had a little show jump as well down on the Oliver Nova Tour in Spain. Had a win there in pure jumping back in late January, so he's been really tuning him up for the 2018 season. Only 9, Anglo-Arabian. But he's certainly a nice model of a horse. Muscular, powerful looking, but got enough blood by the looks of him to me that he'll go well in Anglo-Arabian. Chris is shaking his head at me saying, no, it's a chunky one, I think is what he's trying to say. But the Anglo-Arabians, Chris, known for being, you know, super stamina, endurance type horses.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we always in this eventing sport looking for a little bit of a blood type of horse with a lot of thoroughbred in it. And when we're talking about a blood type of horse, we want the long legs, we want the big lungs, and we want the body to do the cross country. But we also have to face reality that we are looking at a sport that is changing, and we need more of the jumping part of the horse in it. Little bit more of the, you talk about the Holstein and the Sangersider horses, just a little bit better jump. And of course they have enough movement for what we need. It's not a pure dressage horse we're looking for. We're looking for the complete horse to just go out in the cross country to do a nice dressage test. And in the end, they have to jump clear in the last day. That's the most important thing.
Percentuale 54,10, punti negativi 45,90.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we are just about halfway through the first half of day one. The dressage for the CICO 3-Star Nations Cup split over 2 days. And I can tell you the position. It is Raphael Cochet leading. Sherazade de Louvière puts France on top. 32.4, leading by 2 penalties over the very elegant test for Sweden, Anna Fresgaard and Box Cutie. Then it's Rebecca Chiapro with Kalando Z, 36.2. And the new score to bring you is for Andreas Riedle, the Austrian with primary deal. 45.9, his score. But now we go to one of the great smiles of eventing. It is Alice Naber-Loosman for the Dutch. This is Axie Zamzam. A little bit of a nervous start for this young. He's only... In fact, he's not young. I read the 9, not the 14. This one 14, so we can't excuse him on youth. He's signed by the full-blood Roven XX. That maybe he's got a lot of blood. He's a hot chap. Alice Naber-Loosman is on course for the Netherlands.
Yeah, Alice here with her trademark smile always towards the judges. As you said it, I think it was a little bit of a nervous beginning of it. She wanted maybe a little bit too much going into the first shoulder in. She's starting to settle it down a little bit now, and as I said, it's a full-blood thoroughbred horse, and I think that with the galloping track around the corner here and just everything with the wind, it is really exciting. And we know Alice was in Burnham Market when it got cancelled and only did the dressage, so I think all of her horses are full of running now at the moment.
Yeah, it's like a little bit like putting a young man in a sort of nightclub and saying, look, there is Charles Dickens, you read it in the corner, and expect him to focus. It's a little bit like that with the dressage, with the surroundings, I think. Comes from a great family of equestrians. Her husband, Gert Naber, also competed for Holland internationally. They both rode at the Europeans in Punchestown in 2003. Little loss of rhythm there in the walk and then a break. But they both rode around at Tommy Brennan's famous Punchestown course in the early 2000s. Her father also competed internationally. And Alice herself, 4 senior Europeans. First one was actually back in 99 in Le Moulin, then at Punchestown Games of 03. Then had a gap of 12 years until Blair Castle, 2015, and last year in Stregham. Axie, her sponsor there, international caravanning and tenting group that check the safety of camping equipment. That's the Axie prefix on most of her horses. Very elegant horse though, beautiful movement.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a type of an eventer that we're looking for. It has nice long legs, it's got a really nice uphill outline. And it's a little bit a thoroughbred horse, and you really want to see these kinds of horses going the big tracks. Of course, then you have a little bit of a problem keeping him a little bit under the radar in the dressage and not getting too excited and too much tension. I think though that she has, after the walk now, already in the canter picked up a lot of points again. She's very, very nice in the outline. It's got a good rhythm in the canter coming up to the first chain. Oops. Just a little touch of too much tension.
Yeah, this is really sad for Alice Naber-Loosman. Lost the, well, groundedness of the horse, quite simply. Got a little bit in the air. They had a very good season last year. They won Maasbergen up in Holland. They were second in both Elmelord and in Stregham at 2-star level. The last run didn't go quite according to plan, had a fall in Boekelo, but it's obviously a very useful horse, this one, as we say, Dutch bred, so KWPN stud book, but with a full-blood father. It's a great match of the blood for the thoroughbred and the Dutch with the fancy movements and the jump.
Yeah, just a little bit of a miscommunication, I think, in the first change, where he didn't really understand what she wanted, because the second change was really nice and really lovely. As you said, Ed, this is really a breeding that we are looking for in an event where you get more than the 50% of the thoroughbred into it. And I must say, I think it's just a little bit of the first competition of the year again. Very, very nice hold at the end. I think that Alice is, of course, not really happy about the things that happened, but overall it did a nice test, and yeah, just a little bit in the beginning of the season still.
A lot to like from the test of Alice Narva-Losman, just completing. Her trademark smile still out despite those bunny hops in the flying change, which were the only really ugly moment of an overall very elegant picture. There's going to be some loss of marks, but as Chris said, she regained composure very well to complete out the test nicely. The scores also now through for Albert Hermoso Faris, that elegant test for Spain with Quilate, and that is 34 exactly to drop in by only 1.6 penalties behind Raphael Cochet, our early leader, with that stunning grey for France. Sherazade de Louvière still out in front after the first 6 scores have come through. The next to come forward will be an excited young man, because he's only 22 years of age. Youngest in the field, we welcome Tommaso Mondini for Italy. Tommaso is aboard his own Jessup Red Imp. This one out of the Great British Sport Horse Breeding Stud Book. And now 15 years of age, it's Jessup Red Imp, Tommaso Mondini, the individual for Italy, number 8, to get underway. Nearly a super halt. It was a lovely transition down canter to halt. Not quite, Chris.
No, I just lost it in the last moment there, where they had just become a little bit unstuck and the movement a little bit fell apart. Of course, he's a young rider here, and I think he's quite nervous still. I think it's his first 3-star what he's doing, and he's one of the young ones coming up now for Italy too. Of course, it is an experienced horse, and I think we're looking at it at a combination that we really look forward for the cross country, and just to get that 3-star under their belt.
Yeah, this pair together since 2014. They had a very good win. They won in Romania, Floresti, up near Bucharest. Minia Vergolici, the very good Romanian organizer, runs Floresti. And they won their 2-star there back in 2015. But he's got strong thighs, this guy. Boy, oh boy. He won't be stopping cross-country, this horse. He's going to have titanium around his rib cage. Pretty elastic across the diagonal goes Tommaso Mondini. Now this difficult walk sequence that already is off to a little bit of a wavering start, just a little loss of rhythm there, down into the walk. So just to clarify, the position also in the Nations Cup, we've given the individual leaderboard, but it is France, 32.4 out in front, leading Sweden by 2 penalties. The Italians are in 3rd place That's 4 behind the French score, 36.2. And Switzerland are languishing a little bit. They trail the French leading total by 8. That's the early team position. There is one discard score for all teams apart from Sweden are next alongside me. Oi, 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 things coming a little bit unsettled here. But it's a theme we've seen repeatedly in the 3-star and certainly in the 2-star early. A lot of horses just struggling for composure, as you say. Plenty to distract them today, and the weather's good. They're glad to be out. It's not easy to keep their mind on circles and halts and dressage precision.
No, it's early in the season, and most of the horses, they also know what's coming. They're not stupid, and they know exactly what they're going to do. Although there was a decent change there from the Italian. And I mean, what you want to do, it's just about keeping a composure in the whole thing now. It's come a little bit unstuck for him a couple of times, and you just got to keep on riding and do the best thing of it. I mean, there's going to come more competitions, there's going to come more chances.
And that, for me, is probably the most important hallmark of an event rider. You've got to be able to very quickly put behind you whatever's upset you in the moment and just say, okay, it's in the past, focus very quickly on what's coming up. Otherwise, you get in real trouble if you let the problems accumulate.
Yeah, definitely. And you just have to keep on riding. There's 2 more days of competition and everything can still happen. So you should never give up. And a decent change again. It was really nice. It was in balance and was a really good change. He's just a little bit not with him a whole way around and just takes a little bit his own mind, the horse.
So Tommaso Mondini coming to the end of his test. One of the younger guns for Italy. And there are some super riders, of course, here for the home nation. And certainly one is Andrew Nicholson's great friend, Stefano Brecciaroli. He told me last night he will retire his super Apollo, his great partner, his Olympian from London 2012. Apollo will retire this week. He started his career very much here because of the Bordoni family with Stefano Brecciaroli, and that will be his swan song this week. He will be retired at the weekend. So that's an interesting and a sad note, but a reflection on a great partnership of Italian eventing at the other end of the age spectrum, from the man just completing. Tommaso Mondini rounds out with Jessup Red Imp this afternoon.
Giudice in M 170 e 50, giudice in E 164,5, totale 495, percentuale 63,46, punteggi negativi 36 e 50.
Two more to come before the halfway break on the opening day of competition. The first leg of the 8 of the 2018 FEI Nations Cup series kicking off here in northern Italy. As we come now to Gregory Schneckenberger. He rides his own Visconti de Brisi. This pretty young, again, Anglo-Arabian. The same breeding as Albert Hermoso Faris's Quilati, and that did him no harm at all because lying Albert up in second. Visconti de Brisi, elegant, big liver chestnuts. This one side by Must Pom out of Ilara de Petra, who is by Uberon du Moulin.
Yeah, he started off in a nice hold, and then it's a little bit unsettled in the just standing still. He never really stood still, although he quickly recovered it in a nice shoulder in and medium trot. It looks like not an easy ride to sit on and to ride. It's a big horse with a big movement, and of course it's quite young still. It's only 9 years old, and it's really needs some time, those big horses, to get into the movement and to just get to learn their body, their own body, the horse body.
Absolutely spot on, because the big young horses, there's a lot of muscle mass and bone volume just to keep in balance in the dressage. And they've often got big engines and they can get a little bit out of a rhythm almost. This pair made their debut in 2015 down in actually East Sussex at the lovely Brightling Park, just round the corner from the Seven Sisters on the British coast facing France. Their last outing was in Waregem, Tom Rickevaart's competition in Belgium. They were in the 2-star there. That was 18th position. But this is again a 3-star debut for this pair, so that's a serious weekend lying ahead for Visconti de Buissy. I quite like the relationship between Gregory and this horse. It's very nice and soft in his hand and giving him a sensitive but positive ride.
Yeah, so far you cannot complain about it that much. It's a nice test, it's a decent test, and he's really just trying to give it a horse just that nice feeling of the first 3-star. Of course, there's a lot of new things coming up in the test. And you don't want to surprise them too much just in the first competition that you then have problems in the future. So it's just about giving the horse a nice experience and just keep on building from that. And so far he's done nothing wrong really.
It's quite interesting in eventing, just thinking about the horse sizes which have really triumphed in our sport. And there's a real split of sizes. Of course, Mark Todd and Charisma. Charisma was tiny and Toddy a giant. Opgun Luvo is not a big horse with Sandra. And Sam with Mikael Young also quite small. But then we've had some big champions. Custom Made took the Sydney Olympic title with David O'Connor back in 2000, was a giant. King William with Mary King, one of the great cross-country horses, again very tall. But normally, Chris, it's the slightly smaller athletes that I would say are a bit more destined for the top.
Yeah, it's a little bit difficult there because it's a lot about the rider too. Which rider thrives with a nice small horse or with a big horse, and it's really difficult. And I would say if you see at the likes of a Murphy himself, he was a giant too, and he just took the strides out of the eventing world. It's just different horses for different paths of the eventing, and at the moment we're looking a little bit more at the smaller horses that are a little bit more nimble and quick at these years of cross-country that we have. We have had years where we prefer the more big ones that just took the stride out of the fences and just hammered on the whole way. But as it is, it's an evolution of the sport, and you always have to be a little bit in front of the evolution.
And you're absolutely spot on, though. The partnership is crucial because who but Mark Todd could have piloted Charisma to the double gold? So, partnership paramount. And yes, Gregory Schneckenberger rounds out, and certainly a lot to like. A very relaxed performance from the big 9-year-olds. Anglo-Arabian completing, and as we say, their debut 3-star here in Vairano. So we wish them the very, very best of luck for the weekend ahead. But from our impression in the commentary box, for what it's worth, a lot to like. Some scores just to bring you up to date in the Nations Cup here in Vairano. For the young Italian, the 22-year-old Tommaso Mondini, Jessup Red Imp scored 40.8. Percentages 59, 59, 62. Puts him into 7th position. And also for Alice Narva-Losman, Axi Zamzam, that was 36.5 for Alice. That was good considering the one moment in the flying change. Has put her into 5th position, 36.5. But still, the top 3 unchanged. Raphael Cochet leads the way with Sherazade de Louvière, 32.4, leading by 1.6 over the Elegant Test for Spain. Albergamoso Faras and Quilate. And Anna Fresco, the kickoff one for Sweden, is sitting in third with Box Cutie, 34.4, our top three. With one more to come before the halfway break of day one, and we wait for Sight. Will be with us in a moment. About a minute till her start time is due. 2:33 it is. Daisy's Diamante. Costanza Matici for Italy will be the anchor before the final coffee break, or the first coffee break for our judges in this class. But the final coffee break of the first day of the Nations Cup here. Spectators enjoying beautiful weather, light breezes. It could not be more picturesque here in Pavia. We're situated just right between Pavia and Milan, a little bit closer to Pavia. And some seriously impressive cities all around here, because the big river Brenta links Pavia in an easterly direction, heads off to the Queen of the Adriatic, the great Venice city. And that river Brenta laden with beautiful mansions, stately homes aglaw. The likes of Villa, Valdman, Foscari, all dotted around the river Brenta, which is not far away from Vairano. I've commentated on the Venice Marathon for a couple of years, and the Venice Marathon route is along that river. So it's all happening sport-wise here in northern Italy. And now the last before the break, we welcome Costanza Matici. This is her own Daisy's Diamante. German-bred mare, she's 12. Beautifully bred by Contendro the First. Out of a damn Daisy, who is by Courtier Latin, and boy oh boy, just goes berserk at the start of her test. What happened there? It's like somebody stuck a red-hot poker in its direction.
Yeah, this horse looks just a little bit over the top at the moment, and it's going to be interesting to see if she can contain this energy from the horse. I was about to say that it's really nicely bred out of the Contendro, and it's a German-bred horse, of course, and it's a mare. This is really what you're looking for in the breeding, but if they're not rideable enough, and if they cannot contain the energy and let you ride them, there's not much to do than to just survive.
This mare was Costanza's ride in the Young Rider Europeans in Portugal. Vale Sabroso, that was back in 2014. They were 28th individually there, 6th in the Italian team. And previously Costanza rode in, again, Portugal, 2011 for the juniors with another horse, 37th, and in the ponies as well. In Freudenberg in Germany, that was a team bronze with the horse I know, Little Tullibard's Ocean Colours, was her first European champ experience. That's a good record, I must say, for a young lady. And now, Daisy's Diamante quickly seems to be regaining composure and going pretty nicely now.
Yeah, it was just a huge blip there in the beginning of the test, and she's really picked herself up again and just kept on riding, and there's not much else you can do. You just have to keep the positive thinking and just keep on working from there.
So Daisy's Diamante, very elegant walk. It carries herself beautifully. And again, in a very nice, consistent contact with Costanza's hand. Looks like a happy sort of a horse.
Yeah, apart from the beginning, we don't know really what happened there, but now it's got a nice walk, it's relaxed, it's supple, and she can really ride the walk, and so far in the trot work she's done not much wrong, and it was just a silly mistake or something that happened there.
Yeah, I mean, the way it entered, we couldn't see the detail, but it looked like somebody stuck a firework in the wrong place. I mean, it was just a sheer explosion. The new score has come through for Gregory Schneckenberger. That elegant, big test from Visconti de Buissy. They scored 37.2. It's certainly tightly bunched because that is 6th position. And literally only 5 penalties behind Raphael Cochet's leading score, 32.4. So it's tight, which makes for an exciting competition. There's nothing in it. This combination were here in Vairano 2 years ago. They had a break last year. It was 2 years ago they were here. They were 24th in this class. Had a 49 dressage then, but sadly took out 4 show jumps. But that means they can certainly tackle Captain Mark Phillips' cross country. They won in 2015 Arcinasso. And quite a lot of experience at 3-star level, this pair. They're far from first-timers. Completed 3rd in Arcinasso. They were well placed in Rensvoude as well at 3-star. 13th in Monte Libretti back in 2015 as well. So they can certainly perform this weekend. And lots to like, I must say, apart from that sort of weird entry.
Yeah, apart from the entry, she did a lot of good things. I mean, the second change was a good one. The first one was a little bit behind. Overall, I think it was a nice test. It should be lying somewhere, for me, of course, I'm not a judge or anything, but I would put her somewhere with 36, 37, maybe if they're a little bit harsher, 38 or something. But it was a lot to like. It was really, the connection was good with the horse, that it was supple when it was going, and just small blips there in the beginning, and of course one of the changes not so good, but overall a nice test from this lady.
And overall this afternoon, the first half of day one's dressage completed, and of course the horses are a little bit bright, a little bit blustery, but like us all, it's been a very stop-start affair, more stopping than starting at the beginning of 2018. I think like us humans, Chris, we're all delighted to be out eventing. I think this is the same we're seeing with the horses. They're just very glad to be here.
It's a little bit spring feeling, or not?
Exactly. Spring is in the air. And on that note, Mr. Forsberg, I want to say a big thank you for joining me in the commentary. I know you've got to go and get Sapporo with a little bit of dressage in this afternoon. I hope you'll be back tomorrow, but thanks very much for your work and have a super run in the Nations Cup in Vairano.
Thank you very much, Ed. Pleasure being here.
Good. So thanks, Chris Forsberg. He'll go and tune up Sapporo for his dressage tomorrow. He'll be 3rd in the Nations Cup tomorrow for Sweden. And we remind you of the position. We have our break now until 3 o'clock. So 20 minutes is the time for there. In your picture, Dr. Ernst Top to grab himself a coffee and have a chat to Eric Libby and Jane Tolley about goings-on in the dressage. And the top of the leaderboard. Anna Fresgård it is with that very elegant test for Sweden. They line 3rd. Super start for the Swedish Nations Cup team. 3rd place individually for Anna, 34.4. And that's 2nd in behind France in the Team Nations Cup after the first rider rotation. And that is because it is Spain's individual who lies in 2nd. Albert Hermoso Farras with the young Quilate. 34 was the score. 1.6 only is a tiny fraction that he trails the leader. And that got France off to a very good start. Raphael Cochet, 4th here with this horse 2 years ago. It is Sherazade de Louvière, our early leader here in Vairano on 32.4. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks very much to Christopher Forsberg for his company and commentary for the opening part of the dressage here in Vairano. The arena will be prepared for the next instalment of horses, the next 10 to come today. So we will bid you farewell, adieu, and have a nice cup of tea. And we'll see you, and a slice of cake, of course. And we'll see you at 3 o'clock for the next session of the Nations Cup dressage from Vairano. Until 3, from myself, Ed Holloway, goodbye.
E Robert Powell lascia il rettangolo di gara dopo aver concluso la sua prova. Torniamo in Italia con Lorenza Trombini in sella Cado d'Argon numero 159. E si è chiusa la prova di Lorenza Trombini in sella al suo Cado d'Argonne. Passiamo adesso al quarto binomio per quello che riguarda il CIC Una Stella. È il numero 158 Pilis con Ursula Hirn dall'Austria. From Austria, Ursula Hirn with Pilis. Intanto diamo i punteggi dei primi due concorrenti. Per quel che riguarda Marco Cappai per il giudice in C, signor Verlinden dal Belgio, 143. Per il giudice in B, la signora Marina Sciocchetti Capello dall'Italia, 147, totale 290, percentuale 63,04, punti negativi 37. Punteggio invece per Robert Powell al Surara del Castegno, giudice in C 152,50, giudice in B 156, totale punteggio 308,50, percentuale 67,07, punti negativi 32,90.
bien te alejas de mí. Te sientes sola y siempre estoy ahí. Es una guerra de toma y dame, pues dame de eso que tienes. Oye baby, no seas mala, no me dejes con las ganas. Se escucha en la calle y que ya no me quieres, ven y dímelo en la cara.
Pregúntale nunca tuve una mala intención. Yo nunca quise burlarme de ti. Conmigo ves, nunca se sabe. Un día digo que no hay otro que sí.
Yo soy masoquista.
Con mi cuerpo un egoísta.
Puro chantaje, puro chantaje. Siempre es a tu manera.
Yo te quiero aunque no quiera.
Puro chantaje, puro chantaje. Vas libre como el aire.
No soy de ti ni de nadie.
Como tú me tientas cuando tú te mueves. Esos movimientos sexy siempre me entretiene. Sabes manipularme bien con tu cadera. No sé por qué me tienes en lista de espera.
E Ursula Hearn lascia il campo gara con il suo Pilis. E torniamo in Italia con Carolina Silvestri in sella Red Andes Fanfare numero 166. Intanto diamo anche il punteggio di Lorenza Trombini, che con il suo Cado d'Argon ha concluso con questo punteggio: giudice in C 156, giudice in G in B 152,50, totale 308,50, percentuale 67,07, punti negativi 32,90.
Yo te quiero aunque no quiera.
Puro chantaje. Vas libre como el aire.
No soy de ti ni de nadie. 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 Con mi cuerpo un egoísta.
Puro chantaje, puro chantaje. Siempre es a tu manera.
Yo te quiero aunque no quiera.
Puro chantaje, puro chantaje. Vas libre como el aire.
No soy de ti ni de nadie. Nadie.
Alright, baby. Shakira, Maluma,
Pretty boy.
you're my baby loba. Yeah, Colombia, you feel me?
Pretty boy. La vida me empezó a cambiar. La noche que te conocí, tenía poco que perder y la cosa sigue así. Yo con mi sostén a rayas y mi pelo a medio hacer. Pensaste todavía es un niño, pero ¿qué le voy a hacer? Es lo que andaba buscando, el doctor recomendando. Creí que estaba soñando. ¿De qué me andaba quejando? No sé qué estaba pensando. Voy pa'l cielo y voy pateando. Me enamoré. Lo vi solito
Well, 3 o'clock is fast approaching, and that is the restart time here for the first leg of the FEI Nations Cup series. We're broadcasting live from Vairano in northern Italy. 10 have completed their dressage, and I can tell you the position is Raphael Cochet leading for France. The elegant test with Sherazade de Louvière out in front by a whisker. 32.4, leading by 1.6 over the very experienced Spaniard Albert Hermoso Faras is second with Quillate, 34. And then that superb test Anna Fresgaard for Sweden with Box Cutie completes the podium, 34.4, only 2 back of the leading score. So it's as tight as you get in eventing, with the 2 phases of the cross country and the jumping to come. 8 legs this year and 7 scores to count for each of the nations. 100 points to the winner. Second, 90, and down it goes. And it has been Germany who've been so dominant over the years since 2012 with the inception in the Olympic year. They've won an impressive number of times, the Germans. 4 wins they've had, and we get back underway with Olympe Dumont. This is the individual for France. Olympe is aboard Asnar der All Z. This is an 11-year-old gelding. He's Zangaseda, bred, of course, that Z. A letter at the end, the Zangaseda brand, if you like, on his name. We welcome back our 3 judges that are the very experienced Frenchman, Eric Libby sitting at C, Jane Tolley for Great Britain at M, and again, he goes to Burley this year to judge at the 4-star in the UK in Stamford. That's Dr. Ernst Topp, the dentist formerly. He's just retired, Ernst. Had a practice in Oldenburg up in the north of Germany. And Olympe Dumont, she's 26 years of age. This is her 17th international start. She's had a very good record cross-country. Only twice has had cross-country penalties in those 16 starts. And this is her 5th 3-star that she sets off into the dressage in her career with Azar. And this one is sired by ARS Vivendi. It's a Holsteiner stallion, but it's got a lot of blood as well. 42% of thoroughbred or pure sang blood, the ability to gallop and stay on the cross country. Blood coming down from the great names of the racehorses, Rantzau, Lady Killer and Ultimate, all pure sang, pure bloods, as the French translation means. And the dam, our Latina that is, and she was by Castello again, 46% blood there from Cottage Sun, one of the great, again, full bloods, and a little dash of Anglo-Arabian blood as well with Ramses, the Anglo-Arabian stallion, also on the dam sire side. So this guy is designed to, not the full thoroughbred by far, but plenty enough for a quick cross-country round come Saturday. This horse looking very settled, which has not been a feature of some of the tests we've seen. He looks composed. This is their debut run this season, so they've certainly come in at the deep end. They really have. No little tune-up. They competed the Nations Cup last year in Haradupin at home in France. They were also 7th in Jardy. That was in the 2-star, however, May of last year. Combination together since 2015. And that is a nice enough test, I must say. Lots to like, and she looks pretty happy with that. Olympe Dumont completing with the Zangaseda Gelding, Azar de Aonzed completing here in Vairano. That's number 11 to get underway. And a very nice job it was.
Dalla Svizzera, from Swiss, Camille Gouillot with Ulsan de la Corre.
Well, the 2018 season has been hallmarked by torrential rain, bad weather, freezing conditions across much of Western Europe, and particularly in Great Britain, where it's been just a nightmare for the horses and riders. So many cancellations. But the weather gods have certainly changed their tune on the eventers. We're delighted about that. It could not be any better. To welcome in the next combination. And this is the first of the second rider rotations. We welcome Camille Gouillot, it is, for Switzerland. And this is her own, Ulsan de la Corre. He's self-Francais, bred 10 years of age. And he's side by l'Arc de Triomphe, out of a dam by Duc de Hutrel. The second for Switzerland at the moment. They languish a little bit because Yasmin Gambriasio's score was 40.4. Only 8 off the pace set by Raphael Cochet. But the Swiss need to play a game of catch-up, and hopefully they could drop that score. There's just a little bit of a cannonball on their efforts, a little bit of a chain and ball. Quite a bright start, I must say, from Camille Gouillot. Just one start for Camille at the European. She did ride in Blair Castle. Alain Lachor's Scottish Europeans of 2015. Had a tumble, sadly, with Larnac de Vaubenz out on the beefy enough cross-country course, but no shame. Great to just start the European champs. This pair have had a good relationship with Italy in Italian events, because last year they were third in Polare, which is just outside Savona on the Ligurian coast, just a little bit south and a little bit to the west of our Vairano location, not far from Genoa, the port of Genoa. They also were fourth in Kreutz in Germany's heartland last year. Yeah, their best results come in Italy. They were also fourth again at Polare the year before. Yeah, and fifth in Polare the year before that as well. So they do like coming to Italy. So this, the FEI 3-star test of 2015, the B version, with these tricksy enough pirouettes that I must say that was very, very fluent. Kept the rhythm up beautifully on the turn. You'll see some of the horses kind of stuttering, losing the rhythm, but nothing like it for Ulsan de la Corre. He just flows around the radius of the circle beautifully. And it's certainly a very balanced picture. And nothing much is changing. It looks very effortless, and the flying change was solid enough. I think this is certainly going to be a significant enough improvement on Yasmin Gambriasio's score. Try and fly the Swiss flag on the opening day of competition. The score is in now for Costanza Mantici, the one that came before the break, and that is with Daisy Diamant. 38.7 is the score, puts her into 7th position. Yeah, and a lovely smile, and absolutely rightly so. Camille Guyot pulls out a very smart test with Alexander Lacouri. He is self-Francais bred, as is the world champion, of course. Opgan Luvo took the world title in Normandy with Sandra Ophart for Germany. So they are a wonderful breed. They have all the qualities for top-class eventing. They have the blood. There's a lot of thoroughbred, ever increasingly in the modern self-Francais breed. But they also combine that gallop and stamina with the elegance of the more continental breeds, and often the care in the show jumping. And Voller, as he's known, is the best show jumper eventing seen over the last 10 years easily. And that's actually not my opinion, but no less than Eric Duvander, the New Zealand team coach for many, many years. Eric was asked which was the best event horse in the show jumping about the time when Voller won the world title, and he came down with Opgan Luvo. So that is the talent of the self-Francais for modern eventing. Nice test for Camille Guyot, but now the score's through, and it's a really good one for Olympe Dumont and Azar Del Z. It is 34.1. Moves very close, literally 1.7 only behind Raphael Cochet. So the podium changes. Anna Frescourt is knocked down a spot into 4th, and the young French rider is up into 3rd. It's now France, Spain, France, our top 3 in Vairano. But now, this is one that I think has got a very real chance of winning the individual battle here in Vairano, because it's a super combination of Luc Chateau on course. And Luc is aboard his super stallion, 15 years of age this time. It's Propriano de la Bat on course. 34 years of age is Luc Chateau.
64,67.
This horse won the Tattersall's 3-star in Ireland last year, and he took the Houghton Hall 3-star as well. They were shortlisted for the Malmo Europeans in 2013, but sadly didn't quite make it onto the French team for the Swedish Europeans. But as you can see, it's such a positive start. He's come out at really meaning business this afternoon. And Luc Chateau, he's a man with a sense of humour, because his FEI database photo is Brad Pitt, no mistaking. Which, of course, you giggle. And Luc started riding at 10 years of age. Quite a late starter, really. I started at 3 on the horse. But of course, the contrast, his career's taken off on an upward trajectory, and mine plummeted to the microphone. That's the difference. But he comes from a non-equestrian parentage, and they became, like many families do, then hooked on the wonderful sport of eventing. And impressive because mum and dad, as I say, not equestrian, but such was the life-changing influence of eventing that they now breed horses, and this stallion is, of course, their flagship stallion. This is very nice to watch. Little loss of rhythm in the walk. But overall, the impression is very, very solid. And Luc first saw eventing at Trot in France, and he got hooked at Trot. Spent a spell with Jean-François Hallier, trained with Jean-François at just 18 years of age. And then he went to Véronique Nadjahi at the Haras de la Louvière to train. Picks up into a beautiful, elegant off-the-floor canter. Luc partners Caroline Creval, who is herself a riding instructor. And I must say, this horse, beautiful. Outline is absolutely perfect. If you could draw a horse's outline for a child and say that is what you want, this is it. It's uphill, it's round, but it's not tight under the neck. The flying change is as smooth as a tiger in a tuxedo. Luc Chateau is pulling out all the stops, and France in a minute are going to have a 1-2, no question. This has got to be ahead of Raphael Cochet. And the French team is purring after two riders. Really is. The Olympic champions from Rio are showing us their strength in depth. Quite a crowd gathered as well under the little tree in the shade. 50 or so people watching on and enjoying this. I would say that this combination would be one of the favourites to lift the individual prize here. But the other one is Donation Choly with Ocarina du Chamois. Has been out of action since London 2012, but a former Buccolo winner. But that is a beautiful halt. Luc Chateau smashes the dressage out of the park. That was a wonderful test to watch. And the square halt to complete was the icing on the cake. And as I say, France very much eagle-eyeing a 1-2. I suspect Raphael Cochet's score is going to be blown out of the water, but in any case, it's a French 1-2, and they're both team riders. So a perfect start to the Vairano Nations Cup leg for France. Well done to the beautiful stallion, Propriano de la Batte and Luc Chateau. The next to come is the tall figure of Verdi under the saddle of Clelia Casiraghi. The second to come for the Italian team to try and consolidate the good start that Rebecca Chiappero has given the Italians. 25 years of age now, Clelia. She started eventing back in 2007. Went superbly to complete Le Moulin, the four-star. Her first four-star ever was last year. 28th was a great result at the North German, one of 6 four-star events in the world. She rode last year at her first ever senior Europeans in Stregom. Finished 30th as well. Very classy. Early break for Verdi. But I don't think that's a worrying sign because he looks relaxed enough. Clelia, known as Kay, is her nickname. Was born in Monza, but now based just not far from Vairano, near Milan. but a couple of early blips, sadly. She started riding at 4 years of age. Trains with Matteo Zoja, who is here in Vairano, the big Italian trainer. She also had a very good bronze medal at her first ever Italian National Championships. We are delighted once again this year, 2018, Vairano hosting the Senior National Championships this weekend here. So that is part of the CCI three-star, however, so not part of this Nations Cup competition. It's certainly a nice story with Clélia and Verdi, because they rode at Young Riders together in Vale Sabroso in Portugal in 2014, and then the first senior cap was in Stregom. It's always so special when you can take a horse from the youth ranks as a rider up to senior level. That's impressive. Learned together and good enough for the big time with the older cats. And that reminds me of Ben Vogue, who last year, in completing at Stregom, became the first to ever ride at one horse, Noe de Vati, at every category. So they were juniors, young riders, and then the 3 senior champs. They were at the Olympics in Rio, they were at the Worlds in Normandy, and last year became their European cap in Stregom. That's the only horse ever to have done all of those. Juniors, young riders, and the 3 seniors. So well done to Noe de Vati. But this partnership are on a similar, if not complete package, on a similar path to Ben and Noe. Nice extended canter down the long side. He's a very tall, elegant, regal-looking horse, Verdi. They did start the 3-star in Protoni end of March, but they retired on the cross country after a few problems. So we hope they've ironed those out in training. They've had a couple of weeks to do that. Let's hope they're back in business. They took part in the long format here last year and were a super second, which set them on course for Le Moulin. And the lovely combination of Clélia Casaraghi completing for Italy. The second for the Italian team comes home to follow up on the not bad start from Rebecca Chiappero. Rebecca, who scored 36.2. But now the score is through for Luc Chateau, and as we thought he has, stolen the lead by a sizable, nearly 6 penalties, because 26.7 quite deservedly is Propriano de Labat's score. 32.4, Raphael Cochet drops into second with Sherazade de Louvière. They're both part of the same team for France, so France are out of the blocks like Usain Bolt on amphetamines. They really are blazing the way, but it is very tight, the score, so although it's 1-2 for the French, there's not a huge separation between the top of the leaderboard in terms of points, so it's all very open to go out onto Mark Phillips's cross country on Saturday. And of course, with one discard score for all the teams, well, the 3 teams apart from Sweden, who are down to 3. They've got to be really on fire, all of the Swedes. Now we come to the next batch of individual riders, and we welcome in number 15 to start. It is Midolino about to get underway. This is Sara Bresci for Italy. This is Laura Maria Morganti's Midolino getting underway. A 16-year-old Italian-bred chestnut by Floridin Dutunut, out of a mare who was contessa the 6th by Oriolo.
Il prossimo binomio sarà quello formato da Kai Rugaber con Lowneken dalla Germania. From Germany, Kai Rugaber with Lowneken.
Well, Sara Bresci, a name we certainly know very well from Italian eventing. 3 Europeans she competed at. Young Riders in Croit was back in 08. Good team bronze at the Young Riders there. And super form all over because she did 2 pony Europeans as well with Aero Flyer in the early 2000s. 7th and 4th individually at Pratoni here in Italy and in Jascovo in Poland back in 2004. So very accomplished youth record she has got, which is always a good omen, or a good sign, an indicator as to ability. This horse competed in Pratoni end of March. For 26th he was in the 1-star there. Have had a good long relationship together as well. They started back in 2010 in Ravenna was their first ever outing. A horse that sometimes is ridden by Fabio Fanicotti as well. In fact, Fabio had wins with this horse in Dunakesi in Hungary 2015 and won the long 2-star in Monte Libretti in 2015. Just getting a little bit wavering in his head and jogging in the walk. The judges don't like jogging in the walk. It's one of those cardinal sins, which is always going to be penalised, sadly. It's a strictly full-time gait, the walk, and the jog. Oof, the judges really turn their nose up at it like they would to cold porridge. Just getting a little bit deep in his head carriage. He's just tucking his nose underneath his V in his jaw, coming a little bit behind the vertical. Just wants to slightly freshen him up in front. Just pick him up a little bit with her hand and push his nose a bit up and out, I think is my feeling. It's an elegant, powerful horse, Midolino, and he's certainly done it all. 16 years of age now. That was an accurate change. Very nicely across the diagonal there. At the back end of Sara Bresci's test. So Midolino comes down the final centre line. The big chestnut, yeah, stands up perfectly square at the end of a A nice enough test, lots to like, certainly. Just a few moments, he went a little bit deep in the head carriage at the back end of the test, but the overall impression is very solid for the Italian individual. And Sara Bresci completing her Nations Cup test here in Vairano. That is combination number 15 of the 20 to come before our judges safely through the first phase.
Intanto ha chiuso la sua prova sul rettangolo in sabbia anche Sara
The score now in for Clelia Casaraghi and her great campaign of Verdi. It is 34.1 until Luc Chateau's really blown the field apart with 26.7. That was within 2 of the lead, but now it's within 8 or so. But a good score for Clelia Casaraghi puts her and Verdi into 5th position as we stand here in Vairano.
190 e 50 per un totale di 571,50, percentuale 73,20, punti negativi 26,70 e passano a condurre la classifica provvisoria.
So lovely sunny scenes here in Vairano. Lots of people out enjoying the weather. Perfect it is for an afternoon of top horse sports. The next to come, we welcome for France again. He rides as an individual. It's Thibaut Champel just getting underway. 22 years of age only. His birthday, 25th of April, coming just 6 days away. Born in 95, which I must say, doing my preparation, I thought, oh boy, I left my secondary school in 96, just a year after Thibaut was born. Frankly depressing, I must say. He's got a gorgeous website he's prepared. Sadly, it's all in French, so hampered my preparations. He worked since last year with Nicole Favreau in the dressage. And Thibaut rode at 2 European Youth Championships, was in Monte Libretti. With this horse, 2016 that was 11th individually with this horse, Clerkenwell it is. Clerkenwell by Clerkenwell, which is a US bred pure sang thoroughbred, owned by Thibaut as well. And he also rode in Stregon, the juniors of 2012. But that was with another horse, but he was 17th individually in Poland at the Junior Europeans. And last year, as I say, or 2 years ago, Monte Libretti was the Young Riders. But elegant is Clerkenwell as he extends across the diagonal. And France having a runaway day in the dressage because first and second, 2 of their team riders, their first out, Luc Chateau and Raphael Cochet, have given the French a dream start to the 2018 Nations Cup Series. Just a little loss of rhythm as they come down into the walk. So the position, we're at the halfway stage after the first two riders for each of our teams have competed. The only exception to that is Sweden, down to 3, so only there 1. So Sweden are a little bit out of this halfway assessment. But France, as we say, they've blazed the trail. 59.1 is the French team tally after the first two riders. Italy lies second at 70.3 with Clelia Casiraghi and Rebecca Chiappero. Silver for the Italians, and the Swiss are in the bronze medal position, 75.3. But apart from the French, we can't get any indication really, because only one for Sweden has gone and a fresh scored. So the Swedes are a little bit out of that equation. But I think France, we can safely say, are out in front unless one of Christopher Forsberg or Ludwig Svennestel does something dazzling in the dressage. France are fairly safe. Just getting a little bit hot is Clerkenwell, snorting out of his nostrils. It's always an indicator of tension, or an allergy, of course. Just a little loss of rhythm there in the counter-canter, where the horse is on the wrong leading leg. Should be left circle, left lead leg first in the beat, but counter-canter going on left circle. It's the right leg which leads, so the unbalanced format. But certainly lots to like about Clerkenwell, this Anglo-Arabian 14-year-old. He's very elegant, isn't he? Beautifully straight across the serpentine there, but then that little cock of the head and then the slightly fluff-flying change, sadly. Again, just showing the tension, as you can see. He's just a little bit agitated. But as Christopher Forsberg said earlier, the really electric arena here, because the racecourse is alongside. They can see the jumps as they're warming up. They know what's coming. And as we said, it's like putting a student into a nightclub with Charles Dickens or worse, William Shakespeare, and saying, come on, concentrate and read that dense text rather than be distracted in the club. That is rather the conditions here, which nothing wrong with that, but that's just to explain why the horse is a little bit bright and goggle-eyed at the surroundings. But overall, a lot to like from Clerkenwell. And 22-year-old Thibaut Champel completing a nice test as an individual for France.
Giudice in C 169, giudice in M 169,50, giudice in E 175,50 per un totale di 514, percentuale 65,90, punti negativi 34,10. Mentre il punteggio per Sara Breschi è per il giudice in C 161, giudice in M 162,50, giudice in E 177 per un totale di 500,5, percentuale 64,17, punti negativi 35,80. Intanto ha terminato Thibaut Champel e lascia quindi il posto al numero 358 Magu con Beatrice Masciolini per l'Italia.
So relaxed seat here in Vairano as they discuss the nitty-gritty of the test just completed for Thibaut Champel. As now we can give you the score in for Sara Bresci. Midolino, the big chestnut. His percentage is 61%, 62.5, 68%. And that is a penalty score of 35.8. An 8th position. And again, it's really, there's one way out in front, Luc Chateau, 26.7. That super test from Propiano de Labat, which was clearly, I'd say, deservedly with a 6-point advantage. It was heads and shoulders smarter and more elegant and more fluent than the others. It was really good. Kind of test that could, you know, impact the likes of Badminton at the top of the leaderboard. It was that smart from the Self Francais stallion. But apart from Luc Chateau, they're all very much tightly bunched. When you think that places 2 down to 13, so 11 positions covered by only 8 penalties. 2 fences on the show jumping on the final day. And with a demanding Mark Phillips cross-country course in between, there's certainly a lot of room for scope and manoeuvring, jostling of the positions as we go through the phases here in Vairano. Just awaiting the next to come, 3:42, so he's still got a minute and a half or so till his start time, or her start time, I should say. It is Beatrice Mascioli we wait for. Anna Maria Botti's Marg, number 17, will be the next to come in about a minute or so. So, a chestnut comes again. A lot of the orange army out in force in Vairano. Great to see them gleaming in these northern Italian rays. It's absolutely perfect. As we welcome in Beatrice Mascioli now for Italy, aboard Anna Maria Botti's Marg. And this is a 19-year-old by a legendary stallion that is Fines. Fines, the great stallion that sides so many of Andrew Nicholson's top horses, including the likes of Nereo. Some great horses that Andrew rode to the highest level, all by Fines. And Marg, as we say, 19 years of age. What an old boy, but wonderful to have him here as an individual for Italy. He started with a nice double clear. Took him to the 1-star at Pretoni. Just popped round there for fun. They were in Mill Street in Northern Ireland, or Highland, I should say. At Mill Street for the Young Rider Europeans last year. 39th there. Had a couple of stops at just one fence on the cross-country. 26th at Montilibretti, again Young Riders, the year before. And 31st in Stregon in 2015. So they've had a real blast at the Young Rider Europeans. Good results as well as, I'm sure, a lot of fun and some great eventing experiences.
Chiudiamo questa prima parte di gara riservata alla Cicca Una Stella.
And actually looking at him, I can see a little bit of the Nereo. Andrew Nicholson's great horse that won Badminton last year. Finally with Andrew was such a coming of age, and it was really due the Badminton victory for Andrew Nicholson, who's completed there more than anybody else, but not dissimilar to Nereo. From body type. So Marg down towards C now. Catch Eric Liebe's eye, the Frenchman who's judging just at C, the president. Looked a little bit there like maybe Beatrice gave him a little bit of leg, and he just rather reacted as if to say, okay, I'm very much awake, Mum. Look, looked to me as though that's what happened. Just jumped off her leg a little bit. And Mark just a little bit loss of rhythm here. Just bouncing a bit in the walk.
65-54 punti negativi, 34,50. Gli vale una quinta posizione provvisoria.
So Beatrice Mascioli coming towards the back end of the test with Marg. He's 19. I'm impressed that he's here at all competing, and he's doing a nice enough job in the canter. And throughout his test for an older citizen. Can't wait to see him on the cross country on Saturday. If he's anything like Nereo, who's such a tool across country. Slightly explosive flying change there. He rather leapt forward. But of course, the flying change is not introduced until not so long ago still. He would still have been an 8 or 9-year-old when he had to learn the changes, whereas the show jumpers learn them a lot younger. And teaching an old dog new tricks is not always easy. Probably the hardest movement in the eventing dressage movement packages, the flying change. And it's always at the end of the tests typically as well. So if the horse is a little bit on edge, he sort of builds and builds his tension throughout the test, and then the flying changes come late and he's like, whoopee, I've got my chance to express my stress with dressage. And they can provide some explosive moments at many big competitions. The fat lady certainly never sung until the flying changes have been weathered. So Beatrice Mascioli completing for Italy with Marg. As we say, the brother to Andrew Nicholson's badminton champion last year, Nereo. So well done to Marg for coming through. As we say, looking very much forward to seeing him galloping and jumping for fun out on Captain Mark Phillips's cross country on Saturday here in Vairano. The scores now through for Thibaut Champel with Clark and Well, the individual for France. And it's 42.2. So that is within 10 of the lead. He does, I'm afraid, nip into the 15th spot at the moment. Just one ahead of the back marker. But still within 10 penalties of the leading, or sorry, within 10 of the second score. We're just sort of forgetting about Luc Chateau, who's way out in front. We're going to sort of take Raphael Cochet as our guideline as to how far away they are from the lead. Of course, it's not quite the accurate position, but they're all very tightly bunched from places 2 down to 50, certainly. Within 10 penalties are those 13 positions.
Giudice ne 148,50, totale 451, percentuale 57,82, punti negativi 42,20.
The next to come forward is a man with buckets of experience, and he's very talented. And he's a charming guy as well, a guy I've known for quite a few years now. It is Sydney Dufresne on course. Still in his early 30s. He spent a good 2-year tutelage under the greats. One of the greatest of all time, Sir Mark Todd, was with Toddy between 2009 and 2011. He's partner to Iris de Floria, the daughter of the celebrated French fashion designer, Agnes Trubel. And Sydney is also the undisputed cross-country king indoors. He's won Paris and Geneva indoors. He's won Stuttgart. And he's a very knowledgeable horseman. He actually had his first ever senior ride for France in Stragom last year. He was 43rd individually at the Polish European Championships. And this afternoon he sits aboard Agnes Trubel's Reliquaire. And this is, as we were saying earlier, his partner's mother's horse, Agnes Trubel, the French fashion designer. It's hard to say that, French fashion designer, I tell you what. And it's Agnes Trubel's horse, in any case. Saint-Francais bred by Ballisto. 13 years of age, Reliquaire is off to a very smooth start. Sydney not in the French team here. Of course, his teammates have got them off to the perfect start. But this is elegant from Sydney Dufresne. Well, here you can see the really marked difference between the jog walks and the proper full-time walk. It's superbly in a full-time beat. Sydney Dufresne. Then the jog comes to spoil the beautiful walk he'd established. So Reliquaire is going very nicely overall, though. Still the position. The French boys of Luc Chateau, Raphael Cochet running away with the show for France in the Nations Cup. Both team members, first and second individually as well. Camille Guyot. So bar that mistake in the walk, Sydney Dufresne has had a pretty good ride so far. Just shortening the neck a little bit there, Reliquaire. In the start of the Serpentine. Just completing comes Sydney Dufresne through the dressage. Good smile for Sydney. He's one of the nicest guys on the circuit. And as we say, so much experience gained with the likes of the legendary Sir Mark Todd. He will be one to watch across the country, and it's a good start for Sydney here in Vairano. As a Reliquaire completes his dressage. Interesting mix, half Trakehner, half Dutch, because Ballisto, the Trakehner, and the Damsai Emilian
dall'Italia con Valdo
A Dutch horse with also quite a lot of blood as well, Emilian, so that's why Reliquaire is built to gallop. We await the score for Sydney Dufresne, just completing. Now I can give you the score for Nereo's brother Marg with Beatrice Massioli. And that is 39.9, very respectable. Puts her into 13th position, but only 7 penalties behind Raphael Cochet in second. So, not out of the hunt at all. They're all rather in it at this stage. The dressage hasn't, apart from Luc Chateau, really separated them up much, which is going to make for a very exciting pair of jumping phases that lie ahead. But now we go to the penultimate pair to come. The last two of the opening day of the FEI Nations Cup eventing series for 2018 in Vairano kicks off. And these two are both individuals for their nations. It is Andrea Docimo now for Italy, and he rides his own Valdo. Valdo is 15 years of age. And this one actually is a half-brother to Alex Narbel-Osman's Axi Zamzam, because they're both by Rovan, the full blood. So Zamzam and Valdo, half-brothers. But he's an elastic, elegant mover. He's really powering along those hindquarters, you can see. Really active. And Valdo has had a very good start to his season. He was 4th in the 2-star at Pratoni, end of March. Last year, he also went very well. He was 6th in Monte Libretti's 3-star, 4th in the 1-star in Ravenna. They've been a good pair, these two. And he can do a very decent dressage. His 3-star scores normally are sort of mid-50s. But he had a 33 last time out at the 2-star level, however, in Pratoni. Yeah, mid-50s is very much his sort of average score. But then there's been the change in the coefficient system. So the coefficient element has been largely removed. So what was a particular score isn't any bearing on the scores that we are seeing this afternoon because of this change in the system. And the coefficient has been removed to try and change the influence of the dressage within eventing. Can just be tweaked to make dressage more or less significant. But again, just little losses of rhythm here for Andrea Docimo and Valdo. So as we say, 2012 was the inception of the FEI Nations Cup series. And it is proud to be the world's only eventing team series. And Germany have been so dominant. 4 wins since the start in 2012 for Germany. No surprise that they've been dominant in every championship since, well, about 2010 really. They had a bad Europeans in Fontainebleau in 09. Had a lot of fools, the Germans there, but then suddenly, well, not suddenly, with the dawning of the greatest of all time, Michael Jung, they've just become so powerful. Add in the likes of Sandra Ofart, Andres Dubovsky, Dirk Schrader, Peter Thompson, and many others. You can see why Germany have become the strongest force in world eventing over the last decade. So no surprise their Nations Cup performances have followed suit. But very much looking forward to this season, with the 8 legs concluding at Military Buchloe Enschede in October. Last year, 18 nations took part over the legs, so very broad and diverse range of teams coming forward to battle, which is a super feature. And Andrea Dossimo coming to the end of his test with Valdo, the 15-year-old half-brother of Alessandro Losman. Zamzam completing. Has a little scratch of his chin on the way out, but a nice test overall just completed. And now the score through for Sydney Dufresne, and I'm far from surprised because it was a very elegant package that Reliquaire and Sydney put forward, and it has been rewarded with a very good mark. 33.3 put Sydney Dufresne in touch individually. He is an individual as well. In fact, it's now just been amended. That was a provisional score. It's now come through at 34.1. But still, he is within 2.7 of the leading score. Good score completed for Sydney Dufresne and Reliquaire for France.
And we focus on the very last to come, the opening day of the
FEI Nations Cup in Vairano, as we welcome. And he's been in super form today already, because in the 2-start that ran earlier, he's in first and second, leading with Nala Darville in the 2-start. So in good dressage form, we welcome Kai-Stefan Meyer. He's also ridden on the German teams, was in Le Moulin, the championships of 2011 at home in Germany, was 20th with TFS Carrascada. He's completed badminton and now based at his wife Lara's lovely chateau in Arville in Belgium. All his horses relocated from Germany to Belgium. And this looks like a very nice horse to kick off. Cascari the 5th. We saw her in the horse inspection yesterday, and she was already eye-catching. She's 9 years of age by Casiro the 3rd. And the downside here is Sandro, which explains the dressage movements. Just swinging along. Looks absolutely relaxed, like she did in the horse inspection yesterday. Did not bat an eyelid. And I was immediately impressed that she was only 9 years of age. That extension was a little bit conservative, just a little bit running as well at the start of it. But she's an elegant mover, so Kai can ask for more, but for whatever reason just chose to be a little bit conservative. That one was more extravagant. Yeah, this horse did compete in Stregon just a couple of weeks ago. Was 10th in the 2-start in Poland. 31.8 dressage there. And double clear. It's a very good early season sign. was second in Jardy in France 2 years ago. And a horse that Kai rode around Le Lion d'Angers at the World Young Horse Championships in 2015. And they were 12th there, which is a good result. That's so competitive at the end of the season at Le Lion. They all take their promising young horses down to the south of France. And they're always so competitive at Le Lion d'Angers. So 12th was a very good result. Get a feeling from Cascara, she's both elegant and powerful in the same flip of the coin, which is an unusual combination, but looks like a serious mare, this one. Kai-Stefan Meyer continuing this elegant performance with this exciting new mare. The first time I've seen her in the flesh. I've heard about her. Kai Lara went down to South Africa for New Year in the sun, and I tell you what, it's been chilly since then, I'm sure, for them in Belgium until this weekend. So Kai-Stefan Meyer has had a super day in the dressage, and he completes Cascara the fifth. Looks like a very, very smart prospect for his talents. And she looks like a lovely character as well. And that rounds out the first day of dressage here at the FEI Nations Cup in Vairano. We thank our judges, Eric Lieby from France, the president, Jane Tolley from Great Britain, and Dr. Ernst Top from Germany, who've been in the hot seats this afternoon. And I can tell you for sure the team scores after day one. These are a little bit provisional because Sweden have only had the one, so we can't include Sweden in this half-time analysis, but to the best of our knowledge, it is France who lead those outstanding tests. They have been absolutely brilliant. Luc Chateau and Raphael Cochet, they lead for France, 59.1. And that is a very strong lead as well. They lead by 11.2 penalties over Italy, the home side in the team silver. 70.3 for Clelia Casiraghi and Rebecca Chiappero. Italy in the silver. And Switzerland at the moment in the bronze medal position. 73.5 is the Swiss score, but Anna Fresgaard has done the only test for Sweden, and that was a good score, 34.4. So Sweden, you can't really say whether Italy or Sweden would have the silver medal. We will have to wait until tomorrow to resolve that question. And the individual leaderboard. We just await for the score for Kai-Stefan Meyer, but awaiting Kai, it is Luc Chateau, 26.7, the only score in the 20s, the only one to better 70%. 73.27 was the percentage for Luc Chateau, the outstanding test of the opening day of the Nations Cup, no question. Raphael Cochet, second, 32.4. Then is Camille Guyot for Switzerland in third. Albert Hermeso Faras, individual for Spain, is right up amongst them in fourth position on 34. And fifth is Clelia Casiraghi.